Hello, welcome back to my studio. I've just been on a lovely trip to Bologna in Italy, and I made some sketches and also took some clips of film. So I'd like to share that in this video with you. My name's Liz. I'm an artist and illustrator based in London, and I make videos about drawing in sketchbooks, drawing on location, my travels and things that I find inspiring. So let's get started with the books now. I took two books with me, a small little sea white book and a Stillman and Burr one, my usual one, a beta one. So this is one of the first drawings I made. It was looking through an archway in the old town. Here's how it started off. I've got some little clips of how I did it. The thing that struck me about the city was the fact it had all these amazing colourful buildings, really warm colours. Here's the kit I took with me with a pot of water, and I started off by just, after I'd done a few pencil lines, I put in some watercolour washes. So you can see I'm trying to focus on the sort of dark areas and the light areas, trying to show that there's a bit of depth sort of through the archway. I drew in the sort of bins and other bits and pieces with like a pen line, and also tried to indicate the graffiti around the bottom of the building. So you see it back at the studio. I didn't do too much of the cars. There are sort of in the pencil there, and you can see like the focus of the archway and then the things around the bottom of it. I found the graffiti quite interesting. There was so much of it in the city, and especially because all the buildings are like really old and beautiful, it seemed particularly like a contrast to their sort of like decoration, but almost the graffiti, it was everywhere in the city. So I wanted to include that in the drawing. And then there's a motorbike there tucked in the background. That's another thing there were lots of. So this drawing on this side is a piece of paper. I had like a placemat, and we went to a nearby town called Modena, and this was at lunchtime, and we were sitting opposite this really lovely building, so I thought I'd draw a bit while waiting for the food. Sometimes when you go travelling, it's really difficult to decide what you're going to draw, so try and grab all those little moments to sketch something. That's the way I was feeling on this trip. This was on the weekend. There was a market in one of the squares near the churches. Here's a little clip of where I was sitting. It was really nice. I met up with Victoria Semikina, whose work I really admire, and she had a coffee with me and then did some drawing around there too. It was a meetup organised by the Urban Sketching Group in Bologna. So this is sort of one of the drawings I did there. There was a lot of chatting as well, and then there's a little labour in the corner as well. So one of the things that fascinated me about being in Bologna were these porticos, these covered walkways all around the city. There are miles and miles of them, and I had tried to have a go at drawing the shape of the roofs. Here's some in a different part of the city. You can sort of see how ornate they are, and the sort of structure of them. And they also give these wonderful shadows when the sun's so bright. So these are my attempts at doing them. I found them incredibly difficult, and you can see I've got some little pencil drawings on one side too, and the overarching part's very hard. I think you'd have to study them quite a bit to sort of get them right. This is what they look like when you looked straight up from where you were sitting. But it's always good to try something challenging. So here's another one from the market. This was, I was sitting behind a lady that had all these red boxes, and I just tried to do a very quick drawing of some of the people that were there as well. it was coming to the end of the day at this point. I also stuck in some of my labels from bottles, business cards. This is a ticket from visiting the Mambo Museum, where I saw some work by Giorgio Morandi. Victoria was telling me about him because he lived in the city all of his life. I didn't take any pictures when I was actually in the exhibition, but I did get a book out from the library, and just thought I'd share these with you just to give you an idea of what his work was like. He did lots of still lives, but they almost become like abstract paintings. The colours are really muted. It's quite interesting to see how he sort of used the space. Like you can see these little watercolours by him as well. They're very pared back, and it was interesting to sort of see how he'd made all of his work based on just a very small selection of objects which he drew over and over again and painted. So it was good to be introduced to another artist. I'm sure lots of you know about him already, but I wasn't aware of him. So moving on, this was in an aperitivo time at one of the bars in the city. And I think perhaps because of the Giorgio Morandi work, I started looking at the bottles on the shelf. And all the shapes of them. I don't know if that was just a coincidence, but that's the thing I picked out here. And you can see I tried to fit some of the people in as well that were working there. It was a really lovely little place, and I had a pistachio sour to drink, so that was a very nice way to spend some time. This was in the main square, Piazza Maggiore. I'm sorry if I'm saying the names wrong. The little bits on top of the roofs are really interesting. I've got some little shots of what it was like at a different time of day. Really, really busy. Lots of buses and little trains and tourists and locals and buskers. It was sort of the central place to me. I was there in the morning when I did this drawing. I quite like this sort of shadow, which sort of hit one of the buildings. And I wanted to put the people in too. They're tiny compared to the buildings, and tried to keep to the same sort of colour palette for that one. So this was the last drawing when I was there. I visited a church called the Sanctuary of St. Luca, which was at the top of a hillside. It was very beautiful, and you could either walk up a really long series of porticos to get there, or you could get a little train up there or a bus. So I wanted to draw the view rather than the actual building, because I love these sort of Italian landscapes. So I've drawn one before, I'll leave a link to that, but just from photographs, so it's so nice to be able to draw it from the real thing. I love all the olive trees, the shadows they create, the little house, and all the different greens that you can see. And then also the far distance, the mountains going off into the distance. It was a lovely way to spend about half an hour or so. They were all the ones I did when I was there. You can have a look at the little book as well that I did. There is one thing at the back of this one, which was I used some of my paper that I'd collected, like some bags. There were some placemats, and tried to do a little bit of a collage to remind me of what it was like, with some of the colours. And there's a serviette there, and then one of the carrier bags. So I did that when I got back, because I wanted to have some sort of memory of what my initial thoughts of the place were. So yeah, back to the little book. Because I was trying to do some sort of touristy things too, I took a small book with just a fine liner and a few pencils. This is a view from one of the coffee shops, just looking down a side street. Again, it's all the colours that are so marvellous there against the blue sky, and it was visually very stunning, the palette there. And also the motorbikes also parked to the bottom. There's lots of motorbikes. One of the other places I went to was there are 2 Ferrari museums in nearby Modena, and I tried to do some very quick sketches there as well using my colours. I'm not that knowledgeable about cars, but I just tried to think about shapes. Oh, this is the actual, the first museum. This is the Enzo Ferrari Museum. This is the house where he grew up and lived. And the building next to it is this amazing new structure, which they've got lots of supercars in. It's a really interesting design, the 2 of the things together. And this is a little glimpse inside the newer building. I also went to a second museum, which is in Maranello. You have to get a special bus to go there. And they have lots more of the cars there. I think it's actually near the factory where they make them. But there are also like things like the Constructors' Championship trophies all lined up. So I tried to do a few little drawings there. Obviously, I had limited materials, so I just tried to use a colour pencil to draw the main shape, the body of the vehicles, and then just some black lines for the tyres and the other parts of it. As I said, I don't know, I have drawn cars in the past, but I don't know an awful lot about them, so it was quite fun to just sort of abstract them down to the main shapes. So thank you very much for joining me in my studio today. I hope to make videos every week or so, if that's the sort of thing you're interested in, then please do subscribe. Thanks again. See you next time.